The difference between a master copywriter, in my opinion, and any of you is really a deeper understanding of psychology and behavior. I don't think it's necessarily their ability to write. But I've known some good copywriters. I can't spell, right? My grammar is horrible. I joked in the sales letter that I wrote for you guys, I couldn't spell shit with a mouthful. My grandmother used to tell me that. She was a sweet lady. But I never could spell. And my grammar is horrific. But I can get you to buy things, judging by the fact that you're all sitting here, right? So reasons people don't buy. Fear of disappointment. Offense to others. People are worried about what other people think. I used to live when I lived in Austin, I wanted a Rolls Royce real bad. And I wouldn't buy one because the neighborhood I lived in was upper middle class. And I felt like people would think I was a pretty big asshole if I rode in my neighborhood in a Rolls Royce. I really did. That's why I bought it. I'm just kidding. But now I live in a much different neighborhood. I can do that. This is a weird one I threw in there because it's absolutely true. They don't know how. You haven't been clear in your instructions on how they can purchase. That one in surveys will come up as number one. It's not the number one reason, but if you ask them, that's the number one reason. Loss of their reputation, pain, the potential pain, criticism. Could they be criticized by somebody around them? The higher ticket, the more people have to be involved in the buying decision. So that opens people up to the risk of criticism, right? If I'm buying something for $10, my wife doesn't need to know. If I'm buying something for $10,000, she does, right? And I gotta include her in that decision. That puts a lot more risk on my head, right? Because if I'm wrong, it's egg on my face heavy. It creates more work for them. They have to put forth effort, makes them uncomfortable, makes them worry. If they're spending money that's at risk money for them, it might create worry, doubt, guilt. They feel guilty because they've got something that somebody else doesn't have. Boredom. But they all really lead back to this one. That's the only one you really need to think about, is the fear of disappointment. That's the number one reason people aren't buying your thing, whatever it is. If you can figure out how to overcome that, you got them, man. Guarantees help. I'll talk about risk reversal. We'll talk about that a lot. Guarantees certainly help. Right now, certain things that are mattering, design really matters. Design evokes trust right now. Well-designed properties, where it used to be the old Kennedy was like ugly is better, it's really just not true anymore, not online. Better design matters because it goes to trust. Because how many of y'all hit an old funky website lately and go, man, that thing looks like it's, so you automatically assume all the information's outdated, the person's unsophisticated. So there's a lot that goes with it. That's a persuasion point, which is a whole different conversation. It does. Really, because decidedly older market might feel differently about that. Yeah. So one last point. This is an interesting piece that I just added to this presentation. It's not in your maps or anything else, any of your notes. I've been reading this. I've been reading a bunch of stuff on love. We were talking about love earlier. And people fall in love with people they believe understand them. That's a big statement. So who knows who this guy is? Robert Cialdini. What's he do? Persuasion, right? He's a persuasion expert. Does anybody know what he used to do before he was that? What did he do before that? Anybody know? He was a palm reader. And as a palm reader, any of you could be a palm reader, by the way. I'm going to tell you how in just a second. But better than being a palm reader, keep these rules in effect in your mind, right? The reason palm readers are able to do what they do, it's called cold reading, yeah. And the way they do it is by knowing a certain set of things that most everyone feels applies to them, right? And if you talk to people about enough things that make them believe that you understand them, they will fall in love with you. Not like you, potentially fall in love with you, right? Which is a dangerous thing in marketing because usually those people are the worst on the backside. But here they are. 25 things almost everyone believes about themselves. You're going to get the slides. It's good to take notes. It's good to write it down. But you're going to get the slides too. So you're tired a lot more than you show. You're outwardly social, but sometimes can be cold as ice and just can't shake it. You have a strong need to be liked and admired by others. You seem confident on the outside, but oftentimes insecure on the inside. You're highly critical of yourself much more than anyone else could be. Right? Has anybody seen one of these about themselves that they disagree with yet? You secretly fear becoming irrelevant or forgotten or discarded. You pride yourself on being an independent thinker and will not accept other people's concepts without proof, unless Rush Limbaugh says so. Right? Everyone thinks they're an independent thinker. Everyone. Guys that will sit with you at the coffee shop and regurgitate verbatim what they heard on Fox News last night believe they're an independent thinker. It's amazing. You rarely reveal the real you for fear that others could use it against you later. You sometimes feel like you're leading a double life. You're a great multitasker and do far more work every day than your coworkers. Everybody who works for you believes that. Everybody. You're a perfectionist about everything you do, even if nobody notices, said the hoarder from Mississippi. Right? I believe you could absolutely go into a hoarder's trailer in Mississippi with magazines stacked to the ceiling and cat feces everywhere, and you'd say, I bet you're a perfectionist. They'd say, I sure am. Promise you, people believe these things about themselves. The more you can incorporate into your writings, the more familiar they're going to be. You're sexually awkward, especially in the beginning of a relationship. You compensate for your weaknesses so well that no one really even knows what they are. You like the attention of the opposite sex when it suits you. And you have some crazy adventures in your past. Woo, wild times, right? Some of your goals are far-fetched, but offer you a distraction from everyday life. You know they're crazy. You know some of your goals are not real. You know that you're not going to do them. But they give you a distraction. You value truth and honesty in friends above all things. You believe you're a far better friend than most are to you. You often wonder if the career that you've chosen is right for you. You always embrace change and seek spontaneous adventure in life. Who says that? Like all you guys probably think that, right? You all hate change. Everybody hates change. The only person who likes change is a baby with a wet diaper. You're a really good parent, and your children are above average. You want to look your best all the time, but sometimes it's hard. You have to look out for yourself and be careful who you trust. You have somebody in your past you wonder if you should have pursued a life with. Who doesn't have that? And lastly, you believe you have one more big surprise coming in life and you just can't wait for it to come, right? These are 25 things that people believe about themselves, right? The more you incorporate these into your copy when you're telling your story, the more you're like them, the more bonding you're going to have to them, okay? And that's it for research. That's it for psych. The idea is to research through their eyes. You're about to go to the research stage, right? So when you're looking at your research, you got to really look at it through their eyes now and through these rules and through these filters, right? It's going to be really hard to do right now, but here's some really good books on some of these subjects. Ogilvy on Advertising, if you haven't read it, read it. Fascinate by Sally Hogshead and Contagious. Yeah, Fascinate's a great book, yeah. If you want to learn how to build cult followings and such as that, Fascinate's a fantastic book. Sally's a smart lady. So that's... So that's it for research. Does anybody want to talk about research? You got questions about this section, or about psych? We're going to go to research next. Does anybody got questions before we go to research?
When you started your copy, you said the sequence matter a lot. And when you choose your psyche, the one that you're going to put the emphasis on, is there one that might be more impactful at the beginning of the, to create the lead, the first paragraph of the
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get into the copy itself. Okay. But we're going to talk about the promise and the call out and all the things that mechanically happen. That'll start first thing in the morning. But there's usually, it's part of your hook. So when we go through research in a few minutes, we're going to go through research at the end. We're going to try to come up with a hook for your product. Because the hook is like, that's the hardest thing to try to manufacture in a system. I'm going to give you a system for developing hooks. I'm trying, right? But it's freaking hard because hooks sometimes are just magical. I wrote one in a bathtub in Mexico not long ago. These guys have this faith-based, I do a lot of stuff in the bathtub. They have this faith-based program for fitness, right? And they're wanting me to write copy for them. I'm just hating this whole idea. I don't want to do it. And they're war room members. They're nice guys. Hi, guys. But all of a sudden, I'm in the bathtub, hungover, and this light goes on in my head, and I picture Leonardo DiCaprio's painting. You know him. He's a great painter. Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper. Not like he hadn't done enough already, right? Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, and I just wrote a headline over the top of it that said, "Ever wonder why nobody in this picture's fat?" That was it. It's a great hook, right? It's a super hook for a product. But hooks are hard to manufacture. But once you're going to try to incorporate as many pieces of this into the hook as possible without it seeming contrived, right? So different pieces of this are going to work into different parts of your presentation, right? And there's a sequence to that. The idea is to try to use it all as much as is humanly possible, right? Without it seeming too contrived or too jacked up, right?